Hello and welcome to the Year 1 curriculum presentation. If you are viewing this, thank you very much for taking the time out to find out a little bit more about Year 1. Hopefully I will be able to answer lots of questions that you might have. If there are any that go unanswered through this presentation, then there is also a Q&A session via Zoom next Thursday evening, which you can attend if you've got specific questions you'd like to ask. I'm going to start by just introducing you to the team. I am Mrs. Willis and I am the Year 1 year leader. I teach in Squirrel class as well as Miss Tuck, who is also the class teacher for Squirrel class. We do a job share and then we are supported by our LSA, Mrs. Ball. In Hair class, it's Mrs. Butler, who I'm sure lots of you are familiar with from Year R. She's taught many times in Year 1, so she's very familiar with our curriculum, and she is supported by her LSA, Mrs. Lily White. And then in Fox class, we've got Mrs. Blanche, who some of you may recognise from Year 2 last year. She's now down in Fox class, and she is supported by her LSA, Mrs. Thurston. So the aims of this presentation are to hopefully give you a bit of an insight into Year 1. If your children are anything like mine, then I know that they probably don't tell you a huge amount about school. So hopefully this will give you a little bit more information about their learning and what they're up to every day. I'll also be explaining our expectations of the children, discussing our expectations of you and of us, and describing specific aspects of the Year 1 curriculum in a little bit more detail. Hopefully you're all familiar with the fact that we are a rights respecting school and that we provide a rights respecting education. It's something that we are very proud of. In 2021 a UNICEF assessor came out and assessed us as a gold level rights respecting school, which we're really proud of. So right from the beginning in Year R, when they first join us, the children are taught all about their rights and about the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. They know about their 5 basic rights, and they also are spoken to about how we respect those rights. So they learn about how to be respectful, and we create our class charters based around those rights, and we talk about how we can respect them, and they are sort of an equivalent of the class rules, I guess, which previously may have been used. As you can see from the slide, we have the 5 basic rights being the right to be healthy, the right to be cared for, the right to learn, the right to play, and the right to be safe. There are a total of 53 rights, which you can find on the UNCRC document. This can be found on the UNICEF website if you do want to have a look into this further. The aim of the rights respecting education curriculum is to help children to achieve their potential and to become responsible citizens who respect others and who are actively engaged in their community. So we really do see it as a really important part of what we do here at Old Basing. But as I said, if you want to find out any more information, you can look at the UNICEF website, or we do have a link on our website under RRES, I think it is, for our rights respecting school, and you can find on there our assessment document, and you can also see a little bit more information about how you can be supporting your child at home and some activities you can complete with them too. Expectations then. So our expectations for behaviour are very much based around our rights respecting education climate in school. You will see that every class has a class charter, as I discussed earlier, and this encompasses all of the rights, the children's 5 basic rights, and lots of suggestions as to how we can, or they can, respect those rights. So it's things like, for example, if you've got the right to play, then your responsibility is to share, is to play kindly with others, is to ensure you engage in appropriate playing and appropriate games. So you'll hear this sort of language used a lot in the classroom. for example, oh, you're respecting your right to learn by listening beautifully on the carpet, well done. It's that sort of language that is used every day in the classroom. In terms of the work, obviously we're increasing their independence, and I will be talking a little bit more about that and how that works in Year 1 in a bit more detail further on. You will appreciate that there'll be more whole class teaching, and this will increase as the year moves on. At home, we'd love you to support the children with reading and spelling and with their maths passport. So those are the sort of main homework areas, I suppose, for this age group. Please let us know about any personal achievements, and we can use our WOW Stars to celebrate these. In school, they'll go up on a display in the classroom. I'm not actually sure if you've had WOW Stars home yet, but I'll make sure that's part of the pack of things that go home at the end of this week. So hopefully by the time you're viewing this, you will have had that home. We have weekly updates on Tapestry. Unfortunately, these haven't been able to happen yet, as there is a rollover process where the children move from one year group to the next, and that needs to be done on the system, and at the moment that hasn't been able to happen for us. I know that Mrs. Selms is working on getting that done currently, so as soon as that's up and running, we will be able to update you weekly on Tapestry about the learning that's gone on, anything that you can be doing at home with your child, and hopefully give you again a more detailed insight into what's been going on. I will talk more about all of the home learning and things that you can be doing at home to support your child later on. And obviously our aim is to make the learning engaging, exciting and accessible for all children. Routines then. I've actually realised I should have mentioned this right at the start. We have been so impressed with how well your children have settled into Year 1 and with how independent they are at coming in the mornings, dropping them off at the door and then coming in, finding their pegs, finding their drawers, putting their stuff away, settling on the carpet with an activity or a book. They have been fantastic. So thank you so much for supporting us in that step and enabling them to come in independently. It's been really impressive. So yeah, leaving them at the door, I don't even really need to discuss. That's something you're already doing, and it's brilliant. It's helping with their independence, and as far as I've seen, they're all coming in really confidently, which is lovely. At that point, if you have anything in the homeschool communication book that you would like your class teacher to read, please send your child in with the book in their hand and get them to hand to the teacher, and then the teacher can read that and respond during the day, so that by the end of the day there is a response back in the book. That's also an opportunity for them to do their reading book changes. We try and encourage them every morning to change their reading book if they've read it at home. The best time is the morning because they're more likely to remember then, and so are we. So if they do need to change their book, try and send them in with their book in their hand. That's a really good indicator for us and for them that they need to do something with it. Snacks then, fruit or raw vegetables, it's the same as in Year R, that's not changed. They will be provided with fruit if they don't bring their own, so that's not a problem. Water bottles, it's just water only, and I know you know that from Year R, and just to make sure their water bottles are labelled as well. PEs are a Tuesday and a Wednesday. It's a Tuesday morning and a Wednesday afternoon. We ask that you just have full kit in school every day with them, because you just never know with this British weather whether it's going to be pouring with rain one minute and sunny the next. So it's just helpful to have a range of kit with them so that they can still join in regardless of the weather. Library is on a Thursday. The children are able to take one library book each, and every week they can change it if they bring it back. If they want to keep it at home for longer or renew it, that's absolutely fine as well, but their opportunity to do that is a Thursday afternoon. And then outdoor learning is a Thursday afternoon as well, so if they could have their outdoor learning kit in school on Thursdays, that would be great. If you want to take it home every week, you can, or if you want to just leave it in school for the half term, that's not a problem as well. So you've probably noticed our overarching mission statement at Old Basing Infant School, which is to develop a love of learning for life, and that's our aim for all children. As part of that, we have our school values that are linked to that statement. These are values that we have come up with as members of staff and collaborated on. And due to our beekeeping that we have going on in school at the moment, we decided to link our values to bees, simply to make it more child friendly and to give the children something to associate these values with. And every week in Celebration Assembly, we try to use these values when choosing children in our class to receive the celebration nomination. And we also now have bees that go up onto a beehive rather than leaves on a tree is what we used to have. They're now bees, and their little comments are written on the back of the bees and they go up onto our hive. These values have actually changed slightly. In the last couple of years, we asked the children, the Pupil Council, to vote for an additional value. So we've always had the courage, collaboration, curiosity, respect and resilience. And actually the children themselves chose kindness as a new school value and voted for that. So that was really nice for them to have some input into that too. I'm not going to sit here and attempt now to link all of the bees to the correct value. I will allow your children to do that for you. But yes, hopefully they'll be able to talk to you about these different characters, of which they also created the names for, probably quite evident from the choice of names. And yeah, it would be nice if they could talk to you a little bit about our school values and how they link to these bees. The Year 1 curriculum then. We at Old Basing Infant School truly believe that children learn best when they are motivated, when they are interested and excited, when they feel safe, when they are valued, when they are given opportunities to develop their own lines of inquiry. And our approach to teaching and learning is embedded in developing a growth mindset and in giving the children the opportunity to deepen their knowledge and understanding, whether this is independently or with the support of a teacher in the classroom. So this is where I can hopefully give you a better insight as to what a typical morning or day in Year 1 will look like. During the autumn term, we very much change our approach to teaching and learning to a less formal and more Year R based approach, simply because if we were to expect the children to come from Year R up into Year 1 and sit them down at tables doing whole class learning every day, it would be a real shock to the system. It would be a struggle for them and a struggle for us, and it wouldn't be conducive of the best learning environment for them. So what we have done is we adapt our classrooms. We've developed an outdoor learning space next to the Mugger on the Year 1 playground, and we try to adapt a very similar approach to Year R. So the children will find that during the mornings they spend 20 minutes with a class teacher in a small group working on a specific learning task, whatever the focus is for that day, whether it's English, maths, that learning will be done in a nice small group with the class teacher in the classroom. There'll also be learning time outside in our outdoor learning environment, and that'll be monitored by the LSAs. They will have specific activities out there that they are encouraging the children to participate in as well to further enhance their learning. And then we also have continuous provision time in the classroom where the children are expected to complete one independent task a day, and that task will be made clear to them at the start of the morning, which they need to complete by lunchtime, and they'll be reminded throughout the morning to make sure they get that job done. And it's usually based on recall, so it's usually something that we have taught either the previous day or earlier that morning, and we want them to then use their skills and apply that learning independently to show us that they have understood what they've been taught. And continuous provision is just like it is in Year R. It's lots of different stations set up with lots of different activities and resources that the children can access on their own, and of course they're very used to this and this sort of environment, so it's been such a smooth transition, one that we're really proud of, and the children have adapted very easily to Year 1 because to them it seems and feels very much like Year R and what they're familiar with. This will obviously change as the year progresses, and we will adapt each term and each half term to ensure that we are pushing the children on where they need to be pushed and adapting any of our approaches where we feel necessary, and eventually by the summer term there will be a lot more whole class teaching going on to prepare them fully for year 2 and what's expected when they get to year 2 and then into Key Stage 2. So it will feel very comfortable initially, and then it will be a very slow transition through, so that the children are not aware of any big change and can obviously handle the learning as we would hope. To elaborate on this further, we believe that by creating exciting and stimulating activities in our continuous provision, whether that's inside or outside the classroom, the children will develop this natural curiosity and will want to engage in the learning. So it's about them being independent learners, but also wanting to take that step in their learning, because we are creating these exciting learning opportunities, or these engaging moments where the children don't want to be doing anything other than being involved in that learning. So we believe it's the thrill of an activity that gives them the desire to want to engage. So it's about us creating these really stimulating and exciting activities that the children can't help but want to be involved in. And that will then ensure that the provision on offer develops their skill level. So obviously we want to excite them, we want to get them interested in that learning, and then once they're engaged and they're interested, it's about us then making sure that it's also developing their skill level, and that it is something that they are making progress in as well, and helping to move them forward in their learning. So that's the overall aim for Year 1 curriculum and how that works. So subjects, they haven't changed hugely. These will all be subjects that the children will have addressed in Year R as well. We've got our core subjects, English, Maths and Science, then we've got the other subjects, which are Computing, History, Geography, PSHE, RE, Design and Technology, Art, Music and PE. As we talked about earlier, it's important to have both kits in school, especially through this first term, because we know the weather can be very changeable. So make sure that they've got shorts and t-shirt for indoor PE, even when it's pouring down with rain and freezing cold. We still need the children in shorts and t-shirts inside. If we're doing gymnastics, it's a health and safety risk for them to be in tracksuit bottoms in case they slip, and socks in case they slip or get tangled in any of the equipment. So we are still required to have the children in shorts and t-shirts when we're inside, even in winter. And then it's tracksuit bottoms, socks, trainers and a warm jumper for outdoor. Just a reminder that hair needs to be tied up on PE days, obviously if it can be, and earrings, you either need to remove them before sending them into school or send them in with some tape so that they can be taped up, which we can support them with. Cross-curricular learning, although it says leaning, we do mean learning, will allow children to make connections between subjects and transfer their skills and knowledge from one subject area to another. Rather than just learning lots of different unrelated facts from different subject areas, the children will be taught to think for themselves, making their own links and fostering their curiosity. So that's a little bit about why we feel this cross-curricular learning is important. We ensure that subjects are sometimes taught in isolation, but a lot of the time we link our topics through our English, through our maths, through our science. It also helps with engagement levels. The children are more engaged when we are able to link the English that we're doing to the topic area that we're learning about. So I'm sure they've told you, I hope they've told you, that our current topic is everyday heroes. And hopefully they told you that we've had the police in so far to have a chat with them about their job and what they do and how they help keep the community safe. We have linked that to our English and to the whale, which I'm sure you've heard about as well, that has been found in the pond. And we've talked about how we can use these people to help us. This topic was chosen by the children. This was done via a vote. They came up with ideas as to what they'd like to learn about, and then they voted on everyday heroes and people that help us. And we've created this scenario where there is a whale that is stuck in our pond. It's somehow ended up there and we need to get it back. And now we're linking our English to that by encouraging them to be writing lists of equipment we might need. We've linked it to instruction writing, writing instructions about how we could get the whale out, interviewing and asking questions of people that could help us. So that's what they did yesterday with the police officers that came in. So it's all about trying to link everything together so that the children have purpose and so that they are enjoying and making links for themselves in their learning. Okay, so HeartSmart is a scheme of work which we follow as part of PSHE. It covers statutory health and relationship education objectives, and it centres around 5 main themes. Now, the children have been working on HeartSmart since year R, so they should be familiar with Boris the robot. Hopefully they can tell you about him. These are the 5 main themes that he covers. It's don't forget to let love in, too much selfie isn't healthy, don't hold on to what's wrong, fake is a mistake, no way through isn't true. So we encourage through our PSHE a can-do attitude. We like to use the phrase, I can't do this yet. Also, as part of this, we talk about making mistakes and how making mistakes should be celebrated, how they're really positive things, how if we didn't make mistakes we wouldn't learn, and we do lots of celebrating of those mistakes in class as well. And all of that forms part of PSHE and about ensuring that children have confidence, they have self-belief, and it builds on their self-esteem as well. So let's explore some of the subjects in a bit more detail. English then, we've got phonics, reading, writing, and then we have spelling, punctuation and grammar, which you may have heard your children refer to as SPAG. So if you hear anything about SPAG, it's just an acronym for spelling, punctuation and grammar. So we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail individually. Starting with writing then, it is probably the hardest skill that our children have to develop. And as you can see from this huge display of areas of writing, this is what the children are having to think about every time they write. So just cast your eyes over those. I won't read them all out, but things like applying the correct pressure with your pencil is probably something you don't even think about when you're writing because it's something that you've naturally developed. But for children, they're still, as well as working out their pencil grip and checking that they're sitting correctly in their chair and making sure that they're holding their page with their other hand, and making sure that their hand is in the right position and holding their pencil correctly, they've also got to think about the right pressure that they apply to that pencil to ensure that they're creating enough of a mark on their page and able to move their pencil fluidly so that they can create the letter shapes too. So there really is a huge amount for children to learn and develop in writing. You will probably find that over year 1 in particular, you might see a real transformation in your child's writing. This is kind of, they've just learnt the basics in year R, and don't get me wrong, they've come up with fantastic writing skills that we're really impressed with. But now is where hopefully those children will sort of start to take off. You'll start to see more refined handwriting, better letter formation, more extended pieces of writing and sustained writing, and hopefully by the end of the year you'll be really impressed with the writing that they produce at the end of year 1. Moving on to phonics then. So phonics, as you can imagine, it's a huge part of year 1 learning. Without phonics, the children can't improve their reading and therefore can't then improve their writing. In order to access the rest of the curriculum, they must be able to read. So this forms a huge part of daily learning in year 1, especially in the autumn term. As every year, we take the children forward from the point they left at year R, and we continue with the Monster Phonics programme using the monsters the children are already familiar with. We focus on the different ways this time that each monster can make the same sound. So we're looking at alternative digraphs. You see the example there with Angry Red A, where there are lots of different representations of that one A sound. So it's about the children understanding the best bet. So for example, AI is more likely to be in the middle of a word. So when they're writing a word and they can hear the A sound in the middle, they think to themselves, oh, is it more likely to be AY, A split E, AI, and hopefully they'll start to eventually understand that actually they know which one it's more likely to be. There will still be a few occasions where that's wrong, but in lots of cases there's a sort of best bet that they can go for. For the first part of the year, as I said, the majority of our English teaching will focus on phonics skills in reading and in writing in order to build on those foundations from year R. There will be a Year 1 phonics screening, takes place next June. By that point we aim for them to be confidently using and applying all of the sounds they've been taught. But please don't worry about this, the children will be very much used to doing similar things to the phonics screening. They won't be aware that it's a formal assessment, it's done in a very relaxed manner, and to be honest they tend to enjoy it. It tends to be something they really enjoy, especially spellings then. So spellings do have a bigger focus in Year 1 than they do in Year R, for obvious reasons. In Year R they're learning how to read words, whereas these words we focus on trying to spell when we get to Year 1. So your child is currently learning how to spell the Year 1 common exception words, and these and the Year 1 spelling rules can be found on the school website under key information and then our curriculum. And they'll be also sent home in your child's home school communication book so that you've got a paper copy as well. You should try and work through these as homework, but at your child's own pace. Most of these words are words that your child has been learning to read, as I said, in Year R, so they should be familiar with them. Just bear in mind though, if they're not, and if they are words that they are not able to read yet, they are very unlikely to be able to spell them. So if you come across words that they still can't yet read, focus on learning to read them rather than moving on to the spelling, as they need to be able to read it before they can spell it. Please look out for the spellings of the week. So we'll have words attached to our homework stickers every Friday. They'll be found in their homeschool communication book, and these will be additional spellings that we have linked to the phonics that we focused on that week. In terms of supporting all learning at home, really our main focus in Year 1 is regular reading, spellings as and when you can, and counting. Those are the main areas that will really benefit your child. We always have the approach that you should never push your children into doing this, and if actually your child's finding working at home difficult, or they're just too exhausted, or you can't find an appropriate time to do it with them, there is no pressure from us. We don't want the children to be put off learning, especially at a really young age as they are now. So please only do what you feel your child is capable of doing at home. If you are able to help though, spellings is a really important area for them to work on. You'll see that there is a document on the website that contains all of the Key Stage 1 common exception words and high frequency words, as I mentioned on the previous page. And if you go to our year group page, you'll also find some support there on how you can be working on spellings at home, and also support for handwriting. There aren't any weekly formal assessments of spellings, so you don't need to worry about prepping them for a test. However, we assess your child's progress termly. So once a term we go through all of the Key Stage all of the Year 1 common exception words and high frequency words, and we then send you a copy of that assessment home. It's purely so that you can see exactly what they're able to do in school. So it might be that you think there are certain words they've cracked at home, but actually in our assessment they weren't able to write them independently correctly. So you can work on them again, or it might be that you realise they know more than you thought they did. So you'll get that assessment sent home, and it just gives you a more up-to-date idea of where they're up to, and which words it'll be very obvious which words aren't highlighted, and those are the ones to focus on, the ones that they don't know. As I've said, it'll be sent home and you'll be able to work on them independently at home. Reading then, our philosophy on reading is that it should be an enjoyable experience and a pleasurable pastime. We really do aim to foster a love of reading in our children, and we want them to recognise the wealth of reading materials available to them, both inside and outside of the classroom. So our idea and aim really is to promote reading as a positive experience, as something that is fun, exciting, and I have to say I think we do that successfully. I know in my class every year that story time is one of the children's favourite times of the day. They absolutely love it, particularly when we start reading chapter books. They're desperate to read the next page, they want to find out what's happening next in the story, and it's probably the quietest they are all day in the classroom too. So reading in the class involves guided reading sessions with the class teacher in small groups. That happens once a week. So every child will be heard in a guided session once a week. These sessions work really, really well. They are designed to encourage children to read out loud in front of others. There are some children who find that easy, and there are some children that find that difficult, and we encourage them to really push themselves to read in front of others. It also can really help with their confidence. Knowing they can do it, knowing they get praise from other children as well as the class teacher, and sort of developing that relationship in those small groups can be really nice for the children that feel less confident about reading. It helps us build on fluency and phrasing with the children. They hear other children reading fluently as well. They've got examples other than just the class teacher. They've got examples of other children doing that. They love working on using expression and trying to create the best character voices. And also it's the discussion element as well, the comprehension side of things. They really benefit from hearing other children's thoughts and ideas about certain aspects of stories. And it's really nice for them all to contribute to a discussion around a book. And as the year progresses, these conversations really develop, and it's lovely. We really enjoy those sessions as well as the children. We have daily story time, as I mentioned, and all children bring home reading books appropriate to their level. They'll be read with on an individual basis at least every half term. So as well as these guided reads, we appreciate that it's important to make sure that we are reading with the children individually as well. We can't do that on a weekly basis or even a 2-weekly basis. We just don't have time in our curriculum to fit that in as well as the guided reading. So what we've agreed instead is that every half term we will hear children read on an individual basis. You'll get a more sort of chunky comment in the reading records that explains exactly what your child is able to do and what we've seen from them. That might be when they're moved up. It might be when it's recognised more individually that actually they're making really good progress. And yeah, that should be noticeable in their home communication book. You'll notice that on the other weeks when we're doing guided reading that there won't really be much of a comment. We tend to point you in the direction of the book that we've been reading so that you can explore it on Monster Phonics as well and read that at home. And the idea is that that gives us time to be more immersed in that group session with them. If we spent that session time writing in 6 children's books every time, then actually we'd spend 20 minutes just writing about everything that's going on rather than being fully involved in the session and encouraging the children to move forward in their reading. So I hope that you'll appreciate that's why there is a very short comment or just a title written in the book when they read with us in guided reading, but we do ensure that every half term, so 6 times a year, you'll have chunky comments where we've done a much more comprehensive read with your child and can give you more information about what they're able to do and what their next steps are. They'll continue to practice their keywords in school as well, and that's normally for those children who need a bit of a boost with their keywords, but you'll know if that's one of your children that requires that. Reading books, I'm sure you are already getting bored of my voice. I certainly am. So I won't go through all of this again with you, as we've touched upon some of this earlier on, and you can read this for yourself as well. But the idea is that we are promoting the children's independence when it comes to changing their reading books. Hopefully that encourages excitement as well and enjoyment for picking out their next book. I know that last week when I was doing some reading with the children and asking them to go and pick a new book, they came back so excited to show me the title they'd chosen and tell me why they picked it. So hopefully that's going to encourage that independence and excitement by allowing them to do that independently. Again, the morning is the best time to do this, so send them in with their book in their hand if they need to change it. Please just make sure they've got their homeschool communication book in school every day, because there will be no set day that they are heard read in their guided reading session. This just varies every week, especially if you're in squirrel class and we're in a job share. We want to be able to hear all the children, so we alternate the days that we hear the different groups. So just make sure that it's in school, but particularly on a Friday, because that's when they get their homework sticker put in there. Comment please when you read with them. It's just really nice for us to know how confidently they've read the book at home, whether they've got stuck on certain words or aspects of the book, please let us know. It's really helpful for us, so when we're reading with them next, we can see if there's any issues, or if they're making super progress, then we can think about assessing them and moving them up. And even if your child is competent, this is a really important point, I think. Even if your child is competent enough to read to themselves, it's still really important that they read out loud to you. So try and encourage them still to do this with you. It really helps with expression, with their fluency and phrasing, with the accuracy as well, and that level of sort of performance. So yeah, please, and it means you can pick them up on things as well, because they won't be expert readers at this point, and there will still be things that they need support with. So yeah, please still encourage that reading aloud if you can. If you do have any concerns about your child's reading or the book band that they're on, please go to your class teacher first of all. I appreciate that you have allowed us time to hear the children read over the last couple of weeks and send books home. And obviously we are slowly getting to know them and their reading abilities. Things might change, we might move them about a little bit at the start of the year as well. But if we've got a few weeks into the half term and you feel that your child needs to move up a band, or that we've not addressed certain things in their reading, please do come and speak to us. It might be that we can explain to you exactly why they've not moved on to the next band yet, and we can sort of point you in the direction of the things to work on with them in order for them to be able to move on. So do come and have a conversation with us. And ultimately, these are the important things to remember when reading with your child at home. Try to make reasonable time if you can. I know that we've all got really busy lives and it can be very tricky to fit in that reading time, but if you're able to do that at the end of the day, then please do. Be comfortable. Try to find a nice, comfortable environment where they are more likely to want to read, and read a little and often. That's our biggest tip, I guess, is it doesn't have to be a whole book, it doesn't have to be half a book, just a couple of pages here and there every day is better than doing a whole book in one day and then not reading for another few days. So maths then. Maths in year 1 is broken down into these key areas. We've got number and place value, addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, fractions, measurement and geometry. And those two first areas, the number and place value in the addition and subtraction, are the heavier weighted areas. They're where we spend a lot of our time working with the children. We try to develop fluency, and we try to work on their recall of number facts and strategies to support them with their addition and subtraction, because everything beyond that builds on those sort of foundations. So that's where you will find a lot of our maths learning initially. So maths, we use a number of different strategies to support the children's understanding. To learn more about, obviously I could go into huge detail about how we teach maths right now, but that would mean this PowerPoint would be twice as long as it is already. So if you want to find out more information about exactly how we support the children and the operations we use and the strategies that are applied, there is a calculation document in our key information and our curriculum on the website. So please do have a look at that. When I talked about the maths passports earlier as well, you will find all of that information on there too. If you want to have a look at, there's a video on there which we have created for parent helpers who are coming in to support with the maths passport, so that you might find that really useful on how to support your child at home. The idea of the maths passports is that it links to the national curriculum objectives, and it works on fluency and recalling of number facts, which is really going to help them in their learning in the classroom. So the more they can do of their maths passport at home, the better. We work on the CPA approach, which is concrete, pictorial and abstract. So we always start off with a concrete strategy of how to work things out. For example, using manipulatives like counting objects when it comes to simple addition or subtraction, and actually the children being able to physically add or take away these objects. That then moves on to a pictorial representation. So this will be over a series of lessons. They'll then work on perhaps drawing their own pictures in their books in order to add or take away. And then that will move to something a little bit more abstract, so when they're using abstract symbols and things that are related and linked to them and their understanding. In year 1, we focus on numbers to 20 when we're calculating. Of course, we know children can count way beyond 20, and we are always able to move them onto larger numbers should they need that. But what we tend to try and do is really build on their breadth of knowledge within 20. So really making them fluent and really familiar and secure with those number facts below 20. That's such an important foundation for them to have in order to move on to more complicated skills later on. So that really should be the focus for you at home if you're ever doing any kind of maths work at home. Again, use that calculation document because that should be able to support you in understanding how to support your child at home. However, if there's any part of that you don't understand or you want some more clarification on, please do come and speak to your child's teacher. We'll be more than happy to discuss the strategies that we're using and so that you can reinforce those at home. I'm sorry if this feels repetitive, but just to clarify and go over the supporting of your child's learning at home, reading little and often, and try to include their allocated Monster Phonics book on the Monster Phonics website. You should know what that book is by looking in your home communication book. Spellings, encourage your child to practice spelling the keywords from the high frequency word list and any of the common exception words at home. But again, just work a small amount at a time, maybe focus on 1 or 2 words. And then until they've got them, don't move them on any further, and ensure they can read the words before they start trying to spell them. And then maths, encourage your child to work through the skills on each continent of the Maths Passport. Again, this will be sent out in the pack of stuff we still need to send home. This should be sent out by the time you're viewing this. But if you haven't received that yet, please let your class teacher know. So you should be getting your Maths Passport. And it will be really clear on there the things that they should be able to do. Start obviously right at the beginning and the top of the page, and then work your way through at your child's pace. Please don't feel any pressure to have completed all of that within the first term. That's certainly not what we expect, and it is also not compulsory. So please only do that if your child is keen and wants to be doing some extra learning at home. Hopefully this is something that has already been made clear to you right from when your children started in Year R. We absolutely believe in an open door policy. If you don't come to us and speak to us about any concerns you have, we won't know. So please come and speak to us. Make an appointment. If it's first thing in the morning and it's lengthy, then that's not the best time to catch us, because we're obviously trying to get on with the day and get your children's learning started. But if you do feel you need an appointment and you want to talk about something further, then please make an appointment via the school office or put a note in the home communication book and make sure that that's handed to the teacher when your child goes in. We'll be more than happy to sit down with you and discuss any concerns. We're also always looking for volunteers in school to help. So if you do have a spare hour of your week and you're able to come in just to hear readers or to help us with our Maths Passports, or spellings, anything like that, we would really appreciate it. You will need to have a DBS check completed before you can come in, but that can be organised through Mrs. Selms at the office. So please do let us know if you think you'd be able to come in and help us, and we would really appreciate that. And finally, well done if you've got this far and you've stuck with me. I apologise, it's quite a long one, and I've perhaps repeated myself a few times. I'm not the best at doing these things on here. It's far easier to sit in front of a group of 30 children and talk to them than it is doing these. So there is a Zoom Q&A. So if after the presentation actually you're still thinking that my question hasn't been answered and there's something I'd really like to know, then please do log in to our curriculum, Year 1 curriculum Q&A. It's next Thursday, September the 21st, and it's at 6:30. The idea is that you only join the meeting if you have a question. We have found in previous years that we've had lots of people join and then everyone sat there with nothing to say because they just wanted to join in case there was a question that somebody else was asking that might be helpful. What we do is we make sure we write down every question that is asked and our responses, and we actually post that on the website after this Zoom Q&A. So that's an opportunity for you, if you don't have a specific question, to then read through everything that's been discussed in that meeting, rather than having lots of people join and just sit there. It can just be quite awkward and a bit of a waste of time. So please only join the Zoom meeting if you have a specific question, and if you don't, and you just want to catch up and see what everybody else has asked, if anyone else has asked anything, then please just look out for the Zoom Q&A Word document that will be attached to the website afterwards, and you'll just be able to read that and hopefully pick up some more information if people have asked questions. As I said before, we have an open door policy. We would appreciate any kind of feedback or anything that you would like further support in, or any concerns you've got. So please make sure you speak to your class teachers. We are here to help, and that's what we want to do. So yeah, please make sure you do. But thank you for listening. I hope you found this useful, and hopefully might see a few of you on the Zoom Q&A if you have any questions, and if not, look out for the Word document that will be posted shortly after the meeting. Many thanks. Bye.